Good morning, traders and investors. My name is Roger Scott, and I'm the senior strategist for Wealth Press. At least the last time I checked, that was my title. Today's Tuesday. It's September 29th. It's about 8:10 in the morning. The market's going to be opening up in about an hour and 20 minutes to be as exact with you as I can. Now, as you can see here, the Dow's up about 300 points. The Nasdaq's up about 200, almost 200 points, about 186, 178. At these levels, who cares, right? 178, 180, 200, I'll take it. And the S&P is up pretty well. Russell's doing well too. Actually doing really, really well. I'm looking at it right now. Volatility's down. Things are looking a lot better. And I wanted to just start off by making a comment. Oh, by the way, follow this channel if you're a YouTube watcher. Comment in the YouTube channel. Send me emails at support@marketgeeks.com. But I want to see you comments and feedback below this video in the YouTube channel. It drives more traffic to our video and it gets us more fans. And I really appreciate that from all of you. So let's begin now. The market has been driven mostly the last couple of days. The U.S. market hasn't been doing that bad. It's the global economy that's been pushing us overnight onto the lows. And that's a very, very important distinction. Actually, U.S. stocks were really bad up to about a week ago. But for the last few days, it's been the global economy. If you notice, stocks haven't been closing that bad, but they've been opening really down. That's more of a global economic issue. And it's not an excuse, but it's telling us that the selling pressure is more global now than it is in the U.S. And we can also tell that by smaller stocks leading. And if we continue to see that, that's a very, very positive sign. Now, the market's going to open up, as I said, in about an hour and 19 minutes. Now, I want to take you through the weekly report. I was kind of brief yesterday because I had so much to say about momentum levels. But I figured today we can kind of take a little break, slow down a little bit, and deal with what's on the table. This week is all about the Fed. We've got Fed talking. We've got durable goods coming out in about, 18 minutes, which is a pretty big report. Mr. Jerome Powell speak. Look at this. Charles Evans speaks. Middle of the night, these guys are speaking. Jerome Powell, if I had to bet, they're somewhere around the world. But anyhow, we have durable good orders coming out, consumer confidence coming out at 10 a.m., new home sales. The big report this week is going to be right here. That's the report that everybody and their mother and father are watching. So two things to look at. We're looking at quarter-over-quarter growth. Notice how tight the spread is. I like that. That's really, really good. A few months back, we were like all over the place, which means they have no idea. But this is good. It's pretty tight. I think we're going to hit it. I think we may be right on it. But I'm more concerned about personal consumption expenditures. I want to see this number go higher. I want to see this number heating up, because if this number heats up, that means people are spending more. And if this number isn't going down, that's a pretty good sign. So that's coming out on Thursday. A lot of data, a lot of Fed. I do believe the market is turning around now for several reasons. Let me explain, to you why. First of all, yesterday, the put to call ratio. Friday, we had the most put buyers I think we've had in history. And if you look at this over this goes back to 2007. It just doesn't go back further. I can go 20 years, but it just doesn't go back before October 2006. And as you could see here very clearly, this is the highest momentum level that we have had in that time. Now, that's the ratio of put buyers compared to call buyers. And typically when you see this type of a move, not even this type of move, any kind of a move, we tend to revert. So I'm expecting the market to revert back higher. Now, with that said, something else that goes completely different analysis, that goes completely in line with what I just said. So this is the put to call ratio, historic highs, right? Look at the S&P 500 on a monthly basis. This is number of stocks trading above the 50-day moving average. Look at where we're at, man. I mean, I can't make this up. This is one of those times where a picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at 2008. Look at COVID, right around there, right? So, but you think, maybe you think I'm just posturing the S&P 500? Fine. Look at the Nasdaq. I don't have to nitpick here. Look at that lowest level we've been to. So momentum at the highest level. Put the call ratio at like the highest level. Momentum levels at the worst levels we've seen. Look at this. I'm not making this up. The lowest level, that's the 50-day line, right? Look at the 200-day line. That's the 200-day line. That's the number of stocks trading above the 200-day. So if this is not a bottom, I honestly just don't know what is. Now, don't get too excited. When I say this is the bottom, does this mean it's an all-time bottom? I don't know. Does this mean we're going to go higher and we're never going to go lower? I don't know. What I mean by this is the bottom, this looks like a swing low, which means theoretically speaking, and I'm speculating right now, but theoretically speaking, what it means is that the SPY could theoretically come up from here. Oops, sorry, looking at the wrong index. The SPY theoretically can go from here, right? This pivot level where it's at right now, which matches the last pivot level that we had right here. And it can come up, but it doesn't mean we're going to go up and away. It means we can come up probably to the upper end of this range. That's what I would have to say. Or maybe even the 200-day moving average. But folks, I'm telling you right now, the Fed is overstaying their welcome. If you look at CRB, if you look at, let's see, CRB, do we have commodity index? I want to show you this. CRB index. Let's see if there's no, there's no more CRB index, I guess. There used to be a commodity index. But if you look at wheat prices, right? If you look at wheat prices, for example, down, hasn't been going up. If you look at crude oil prices, they've been going down. The bottom line is, we're not having inflation anymore, so the Fed should pause a little bit. They should take a little pause. Also, I think the bond market's a little overdone too, and I think that's going to be coming up because investors are not seeing this type of a bleed anymore. This is more, look at the RSI levels here. Geez Louise. We've got divergence. It's just too much too fast. This needs to pop up a little bit. So I believe the market's going to be starting to move higher, at least in the short term. Now, let's talk a little bit about global economy. World shares mostly higher on Tuesday as buyers kicked in for heavy selling on Wall Street. Again, mostly due to global economy, not U.S. economy. U.S. futures and oil prices gained slightly, but not too much. That's overnight, by the way. Central banks on Tuesday moved to maintain cash flow for banks by buying securities from commercial lenders with an agreement to sell them back in the future. Global stocks have been sagging, that's what I'm talking about, under concerns of a stubbornly hot inflation and the risk that central banks could trigger a recession. But I think that's not going to happen. I think we're right at the turning point. The British pound dropped to an all-time low against the US dollar on Monday. Great time to visit Europe. And investors continue to dump British government bonds to a displeasure over a sweeping tax cut plan to announced in London last week. It had stabilized by early Tuesday, thank God. Last week, Bank of Japan intervened in the market as the yen slipped past the 145, gaining a brief reprieve, but the dollar surge against other currencies is putting a lot of pressure. Why? Because interest rates in the U.S. are the highest, and people are putting their money here versus other countries, and that's inflating the U.S. dollar. That's putting pressure on the Bank of Japan, other central banks, especially in developing countries. Companies are nearing earnings season, which may be a big catalyst. If earnings can overcome estimates this quarter, and we're already pretty much past COVID, that would be a huge, huge turning point because remember, markets always price in everything ahead of time. Several economic reports are on tap this week, including consumer spending, job market, and the GDP. The latest consumer confidence report from Business Group will be released today in about an hour and 42 minutes to be specific with you. And on Thursday, we've got GDP. The Fed also released a forecast. Its benchmark could be 4.4% by the end of the year, a full point higher than in June. But you know what? The market is pricing that in. Right now, you've got utilities, healthcare, consumer staples. That's where the focus has to be. You've got huge fragmentation right now. Consumer discretionary, technology, communication services. This is not a solid market, and this is a market that needs to fragment for a little bit and consolidate before it moves the right way. You've got energy potentially moving lower. You've got consumer discretionary creating a base at these levels. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. But the most important factor is the put-to-call ratio and the momentum levels. They just don't lie, and they're a long-term signal. It doesn't mean we're going up this week, but it means we're probably not going to go down that much more. And volatility looks like it peaked out yesterday as well, right near these levels, and it's going down. We have a put in volatility, and I'm expecting the market to cool off quite a bit and take us all the way down to the base. Bond market to go higher, and it's a good time to start looking at strong and weak stocks. Why? Because today's Tuesday. Tuesday, we look for strongest and weakest sector. Strongest sector, I'm going to say, is healthcare right now. That has the least impact of what we're seeing. And again, communication services, right? I mean, you're probably tired to see it by now. So in my opinion, the best stock right now would be either LW, Lamb Weston Group, or honestly, Cardinal Health. I've been talking about the stock quite a lot lately. This stock is very, very hot, but Lamb Weston or Cardinal Health would be my choices right now for the top stock. You can go with Humana, you can go with Cigna, but I like Cardinal Health. Really solid stock, not very expensive right now. I think it's going to go up, and I think that these companies have the least amount of correlation to the overall market in terms of inflationary pressure. Now, on the weakest list, Charter Communication, right there. Charter Communication. You've got Western Digital. Let's see what we got here. Dish Network. Don't get me started. Still here. Dish Network. So Dish Network is awful. Western Digital not doing so well. Charter Communication. And if we have more signs of inflation, Caesars Entertainment's not going to be doing all that great either. I don't know about NVIDIA. I kind of like NVIDIA at these levels here. So I wouldn't be so bearish or tough on NVIDIA, but I'm not a fan of Dish. You guys know how I feel about Dish. It's been here for 2 years now, and Charter Communication, Dish, you've got plenty of things to help you to the downside. Remember, this week is going to be extremely important, and it may change the trajectory over the next few days because we've got earnings coming up, and if this GDP is in line, the Fed may say, you know what, we may not have to raise rates again, 0.75. I think the market is gearing up for that, but it may not happen if consumer sentiment is good. That's coming out, when is that? That's coming out at 10 o'clock. And if the GDP is solid. Again, we're taking things a minute at a time right now, and it's very, very hard to predict the future with a madman Powell in the house who's raising rates aggressively while inflation is literally cooling off in front of our face. He is doubling down. He was wrong by not taking action initially, and he's wrong now by doing it. Another major bullish sign, I want to show you this, and this is really important, is the fact that small caps, look at Russell 2000. It's 8 and 16, right? 3 and 11. Look at the Dow, 0 and 9. 16 and 8. Look at the NASDAQ, 3 and 9, 16 and 8. So the fact that small caps are still holding on is a very, very bullish sign. Now, like I've been telling you in these morning videos, the market is at a level not seen since the Great Recession. I'm not joking. I really mean that. And despite the volatility and risk, I'm starting to see a lot of opportunity. I mean a lot of opportunity, especially in smaller cap stocks, not the ones you'd find in the S&P 500. The smaller stocks always recover first from recession, every 9 times in the last 69 years. And you'll see that if you watch the video that I have attached below. Now, part of that reason is why I believe we've cracked the code on trading these explosive stocks, and it has to do with market patterns that work really well on what I call code breaker stocks. Now, if you want more information on these stocks, how I'm trading them, and the 3 that look really promising, click the link below. Check it out right now. And comment in the video. If you comment in the video, I'll respond. I check them 2-3 times a day. And if you have a question, I'll answer it, and it may help everyone else too. So comment below the video in the YouTube channel. Follow the link below. Check out Code Breakers. It's hot. Bye, guys. Have a great, great day. I'll see you later.